Hi, very glad to see you on the channel. Before you start listening to the story, write in the comments whether you like the voice on the video. I had always been the dependable one, the steady rock, the man who showed up when it mattered. As a firefighter, my job was to run into burning buildings, to save people, to bring order to chaos. But in my own home, there was a fire I had ignored for far too long. Jessica used to be different, or maybe I just wanted to believe that. I thought we had love, a partnership, but somewhere along the way, something shifted. It was subtle at first, small remarks, dismissive laughs, moments where she'd brush off my words like they were insignificant. Then it got worse. She started belittling me in front of others, treating my career like it was less because I wasn't climbing some corporate ladder. She would smile at me in public, but her words cut deeper than any fire ever could. At a barbecue with friends, someone asked me about work. I told them about a call I had responded to a high-rise fire, how we barely got everyone out in time. I was still running on the adrenaline, just talking about it. Jessica rolled her eyes. Oh, please, Mike thinks he's in an action movie every time he goes to work. Laughter. That stung. I chuckled lightly, shaking my head. Jessica, it's kind of a big deal when people's lives are on the line. She took a sip of her drink. Oh, come on. You love the attention, the hero stories, the admiration. But at the end of the day, you just sit around at the station waiting for something to happen. The conversation died instantly. A few of the guys looked at me, waiting for my response. I felt my jaw tighten. I could have fought back, called her out, embarrassed her the way she had done to me. But I didn't. I just forced a smile and took a sip of my beer, swallowing the bitterness down with it. Later that night, when we were back home, I confronted her. Why do you do that? I asked, standing in the doorway of our bedroom as she took off her jewelry. She glanced at me in the mirror, her expression unreadable. Do what? Make me the punchline. She sighed, turning around. Oh, Mike, it was just a joke. You're being overly sensitive. No, I said, stepping closer. I let a lot of things slide, Jess. I do. But you're not joking when you say that stuff. You mean it. She pursed her lips. Okay, fine. You want me to be honest? It just gets exhausting, Mike. The firefighter stories, the self-importance. You act like you're the only one with a demanding job. Histoire de hair. I save lives, Jess. She smirked. And you love how that sounds, don't you? Something in me cracked. For years, I had convinced myself that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe she was right. But in that moment, I knew she didn't respect me. And without respect, what was left? I turned away, my hands clenched into fists. I had spent years running into fires, but I had been blind to the one burning right here in my own home. And for the first time, I wondered if it was time to stop trying to put it out. Jessica's words stayed with me long after that night. They settled deep, like embers waiting to ignite. I told myself to let it go. That's what I had always done. I buried the resentment, focused on work, convinced myself that she didn't mean the things she said the way they sounded. But the truth was, those little comments, they weren't little anymore. They were constant, and they were getting worse. A few weeks after the barbecue, we went to a dinner party at her friend's house. Jessica had always thrived in these settings, polished, charming, effortlessly commanding the room. I had been fine with that at first. I wasn't the type who needed the spotlight. But lately, it felt less like she was shining and more like she was standing on me to do it. Halfway through dinner, one of her friends turned to me. Mike, you must have some crazy stories from work. I nodded, swallowing a bite of steak. Yeah, actually just last week we had this rescue. Jessica cut in laughing. Oh God, here we go. Another firehouse hero story. The table chuckled politely. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. She wasn't teasing me. She was mocking me. I set my fork down carefully. What's that supposed to mean? Jessica smiled, taking a sip of her wine. Oh, Mike's always got a dramatic life or death tale, don't you, babe? Something in her tone made my stomach twist. The people at the table shifted uncomfortably. I forced a laugh, but my voice came out tight. Jessica, you realize my job actually is life or death, right? She waved a hand. Oh, I know. It's just, sometimes it feels like you need the attention, you know? I felt my jaw clench. Attention? She smirked. Oh, come on. Admit it. You love when people look at you like you're some kind of hero. I exhaled sharply, try and keep my temper in check. I don't do my job for admiration, Jess. I do it because it matters. Jessica shrugged, turning back to her friends. See? He's proving my point. Laughter. And just like that, I realized something. Jessica didn't admire me. She resented me. I barely touched my food after that. I sat there, watching her, really watching her. The way she laughed at other people's jokes, the way she leaned in when a friend's husband spoke, the way she seemed so effortlessly engaged with everyone else. And then there was me, the man she had built a life with, the man she was supposed to love. And yet, the only time she directed any real energy toward me was when she was making me the punchline. I should have walked away that night. I should have realized then that whatever love we once had was already gone. But I didn't, because I wasn't ready to accept the truth. That moment wouldn't come until later. Until the day I found out exactly why Jessica had been tearing me down. And when I did, I made damn sure she wouldn't get the chance to do it again. Jessica's words had left their mark, but it wasn't until I started noticing the small things, the things I had ignored, that the truth began to take shape. It started with her phone. She had always been private about it, but lately, she took it everywhere. Even to the bathroom. Even to bed. She never used to care if I glanced over while she texted, but now, if I walked into the room, the screen would go dark. Then, there were the late nights. She worked in marketing, so occasional after-hours events weren't unusual. But lately, it had become every week. Networking events, client meetings, late projects, always some excuse, always something that required her to be out. And then, I found a box. It was a Saturday. I had the day off, and Jessica had gone to yoga. Or at least, that's what she said. I wasn't so sure anymore. I was cleaning up the bedroom, something she never bothered to help with, when I noticed her dresser drawer wasn't fully closed. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but something fell off. I pulled the drawer open, expecting to find the usual mess of jewelry, receipts, and whatever else she stuffed in there. Instead, I found a small black gift box. I frowned, picking it up. It was heavier than I expected. Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a brand new, luxury watch. Not just any watch, a men's watch. My breath stalled. I picked it up, turning it over. The back was engraved. For every moment we steal. My stomach clenched. I stood there, gripping the watch, my mind racing. Jessica had never bought me anything like this. She'd barely remember my birthday half the time. I felt something ice-cold settle in my chest. There was no innocent explanation for this. She was cheating. The realization came slow, but when it hit hard. It wasn't just the watch. It was the way she looked at me like I was less. The way she found joy in making me feel small. She wasn't just pulling away, she was justifying it. She was making me into a joke, so she could feel less guilty. I swallowed down the burning in my throat and set the watch back in a box. I placed it exactly as I found it, closed the drawer, and I stepped back. My hands clenched into fists. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something, but I did neither, because anger wouldn't fix this. I needed proof. I needed to be smart. Jessica thought she had been careful. She thought I was too trusting, too oblivious to notice. She was wrong, and when I had everything I needed, I would make sure she felt what it was like to be blindsided, to be humiliated, to be left in the ruins of something she thought would last forever. I spent the next few days watching Jessica like a hawk, though I never let her see it. Every conversation, every glance at her phone, every excuse she made to leave the house. I absorbed it all, storing it like ammunition. She had no idea I knew. That was my advantage. I had options. I could have confronted her right then and there, demanded an explanation, watched her scramble for excuses. But what would that do? She would lie. She would cry. She would turn around on me, say I was paranoid, insecure, crazy. No, I needed something she couldn't deny. Something undeniable. I started small. Jessica always used her personal credit card for work expenses, but she wasn't careful about hiding her purchases. That night, while she showered, I checked her joint statement. It didn't take long to find the evidence. A 5-star restaurant downtown, a hotel charge listed as a conference stay when I knew she had been home that night, Uber rides that made no sense. Then, I checked her email. She used the same password for everything. It took less than 2 minutes to get in, and what I found made my stomach turn. A long email chain with a man named Tom Mitchell, our neighbor, the guy who had always been just friendly enough without stepping over the line. Until now. Jessica, I keep thinking about last night. I wish we didn't have to be so careful. Tom, me too. But that's what makes it exciting, right? The risk. Jessica, God, I love how you think. I scrolled further, my hands tightening into fists. Tom, is he getting suspicious? Jessica, no. Mike trusts me too much. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. My pulse pounded in my ears. She knew what she was doing. She knew she was betraying me, and she liked it. I set my phone down, staring at the wall. I had been in burning buildings, pulled people from the wreckage, watched as lives crumbled in the blink of an eye. But I had never felt anything like this. A slow, controlled rage built inside me. I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to ruin her. That night, I set my plan in motion. I started by checking our home security cameras. Jessica didn't know, but I had installed an app that saved clips from our front door and driveway. And sure enough, there it was, Tom, slipping into our house in the middle of the day when I was at work. I watched the footage, feeling nothing but cold detachment. Then, I checked our bedroom security camera. Jessica had insisted on getting one after we bought the house, something about feeling safer when I was on late shifts. I never paid it much attention. Until now, I opened a footage from last week. Jessica, Tom, in our bed. I forced myself to watch, to absorb it. Then, I saved the clip. It wasn't enough just to know anymore. I needed this. I needed proof. And when the moment was right, I would make damn sure Jessica's world burned to the ground. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed. I woke up next to her, made coffee like I always did, kissed her goodbye before she left for work. I didn't let my hands shake when she touched me, didn't let my voice crack when she said, "See you tonight, babe." I nodded, watching her walk out the door. She had no idea, but I knew, and that changed everything. I spent the day finalizing my plan. The footage was stored, copies saved in multiple locations. I had everything I needed, timestamps, emails, bank statements. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed the right moment. That moment came faster than I expected. 2 days later, Jessica's birthday rolled around. She had been talking about it for weeks, hinting at a fancy dinner, maybe a weekend getaway. I had played along, nodding, acting as if I hadn't already decided how this night was going to end. I left work early, stopped by the bakery she loved, picked up her favorite cake. I even bought flowers. Might as well set the stage properly. I pulled into the driveway, just before noon, heart steady, mind clear. Then I stepped inside and walked straight into hell. The sounds at me first, muffled voices, low laughter, a giggle that wasn't hers. Then I heard Jessica, "Oh my God, Mike, you're home early." I turned the corner, and there she was. Jessica, Tom, and the delivery guy who had just dropped off her lunch. In our bed. For a moment, everything froze. Jessica was tangled in the sheets, her face flushed, her eyes wide. Tom scrambled to cover himself, and the delivery guy, the poor idiot, looked like he had just realized he was in the wrong house. Jessica sat up, brushing her hair back, her lips curving into something between a smirk and a grimace. This isn't what it looks like. I tilted my head, lips pressing into a thin line. Really? Because it looks exactly like what it is. Tom stammered, "Mike, man, I held up a hand. Don't. Just don't." I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw punches. That would be too easy. Instead, I backed out of the room and locked the door. Jessica's head snapped up. "Wait, what are you?" I walked downstairs, pulled out my phone, and started making calls. One by one, I invited everyone. Jessica's family, her best friends, our neighbors, even a few co-workers. "Hey, I've got a big surprise for Jess," I said, my voice smooth. "You have to come over. Trust me, it's going to be unforgettable." An hour later, the house was full. People laughed, chatted, sipped their drinks, completely unaware of the storm brewing, just upstairs. I waited until everyone was settled, until the air was thick with anticipation. Then, I walked to the bedroom door and unlocked it. The door swung open. Jessica gasped. Tom cursed. The room fell into absolute silence. Jessica's mother clutched her pearls. Her father's face darkened. Her best friend let out an audible, "Oh my God." Jessica scrambled for the blanket, her voice high-pitched and desperate. "Mike, what did you do?" I stepped inside, slow and deliberate. Then, I pulled a stack of papers from my jacket and tossed them onto the bed. Divorce papers. Signed. Jessica's face drained of color. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I said, my voice calm. "Hope you enjoy your presents." Then, I turned around and walked out, leaving her drowning in the wreckage she had created. I walked out of the house feeling lighter than I had in years. The air was crisp, the sun setting in fiery shades of orange and red, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Behind me, I could still hear the chaos, Jessica's voice rising, her mother's horrified gasps, the low murmur of disbelief from our friends and neighbors. I didn't look back. I got in my truck, turned the ignition, and pulled away from the curb, leaving the mess behind. My heart pounded, but not from anger. It was exhilaration, a deep, electric satisfaction humming through my veins. Jessica had spent years making me feel small, but tonight, she was the one who had to sit in the ruins of what she had built. I drove without a destination, just letting the quiet wrap around me. I thought I might feel grief, some last desperate ache for what we had once been. But there was nothing left to mourn. The love I had for her had been dying for years. I just hadn't let myself see it. My phone buzzed. I pulled into an empty parking lot and checked the screen. "Jessica." I smirked and let it go to voicemail. Then another call, and another, then a text. "Mike, please pick up. We need to talk." I chuckled under my breath. Now, she wanted to talk? Now, after she had been caught, after she had been laid bare in front of everyone she had ever wanted to impress. Now she wanted to negotiate? Too late. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat and leaned back, exhaling slowly. The hardest part was over. Now came the clean break. I slept at a hotel that night, giving Jessica plenty of time to stew in her own misery. By the next morning, I had dozens of messages, but I didn't read them. There was nothing left to say. When I finally walked back into our house, my house, Jessica was there, sitting at the kitchen table. She looked wrecked. Her makeup was smeared, her hair tangled, eyes rimmed red from crying. I could almost believe she regretted it. Almost. She lifted her head slowly. "Mike." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Jessica." She swallowed hard. "We need to talk." I tilted my head. "About what?" Her jaw tightened. "You humiliated me." I let out a low laugh. "Oh, I humiliated you." I pushed off the counter, stepping closer. "Jess, I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't drag someone into our bed while you were out working your ass off to take care of me." My voice hardened. "That was all you." She flinched, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. "It wasn't don't." I cut her off. "Don't insult me by trying to spin this." Her face crumpled. "Mike, I messed up." I snorted. "Yeah, no kidding." Her lip trembled. "But we can fix this." I stared at her for a long moment, then shook my head. "No, we can't. Because there is no we anymore." She reached for me, but I stepped back. Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over my jaw. "That's the thing, Jess. You didn't care if you hurt me. You chose this. And now, you have to live with it." A single tear rolled down her cheek, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No anger. Just a deep, endless indifference. I grabbed my keys from the counter, turned toward the door. Jessica's voice was barely above a whisper. "Where are you going?" I glanced over my shoulder. "Anywhere but here." And then, I walked out, leaving her sitting in the silence she had created. The first thing I did the next morning was call my lawyer. The process had already begun when I handed Jessica the divorce papers, but now, it was time to make sure she had no way to twist the narrative. I wasn't about to let her play the victim, not after what she had done. "Mike, good timing," my lawyer, Daniel, said when he picked up. "I was going to call you today. I assumed things went down as expected." I let out a humorless laugh. Better than expected. The whole damn neighborhood saw her for what she really is. Daniel chuckled. "That'll make things easier for us. What's your next move?" "Make sure she gets nothing," I said, my voice firm. "No spousal support. No assets she didn't personally contribute to. I don't care what it takes. She walks away with what she came in with." Daniel hummed in approval. "You have solid grounds, given the infidelity." Courts don't take kindly to cheaters, especially when we have proof. And proof was something I had plenty of. Jessica had tried to call me over 20 times since the night of the reveal. When she realized I wasn't picking up, she resorted to texts. Mike, please. We need to talk. You can't just throw everything away like this. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. You're being so cruel. Mike, answer me. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I started making arrangements to move out. The house was mine. My name was the only one on the mortgage, but I didn't want to stay there. It was tainted. Every corner of it reminded me of her, of the life I had been stupid enough to believe in. Daniel assured me that Jessica wouldn't be able to claim ownership of the house, so that was one less battle I had to fight. I focused on moving forward. But Jessica? She wasn't ready to let go. She showed up at the station 2 days later. I was in the middle of a training drill when one of the guys called me over. Hey, Mike, there's a woman outside asking for you. Says it's important. I already knew who it was before I stepped outside. Jessica stood there, arms wrapped around herself, her face pale. She looked exhausted, her eyes rimmed red, but I wasn't going to let myself feel bad for her. She did this to herself. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Jessica? Her lips parted slightly, as if she was surprised by my cold tone. I needed to see you. You won't answer my calls. I arched a brow. Take the hint. She swallowed hard, stepping closer. Mike, please. I know I messed up, but I love you. Don't throw everything away because of one mistake. I scoffed. One mistake? Jess, I caught you in bed with 2 men. And that's just what I saw. How many times, huh? How long have you been laughing behind my back? Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't like that. I let out a humorless chuckle. Oh, so you accidentally cheated on me? She shook her head desperately. I was lost, Mike. I felt like we weren't connected anymore, like we were just going through the motions. I made stupid choices, but I never wanted to lose you. You stared at her, disgusted. Jess, you did lose me. She reached out, but I stepped back. Mike, go home, Jessica, I said firmly. And by home, I mean anywhere but my house. Your stuff will be packed and waiting for you. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to process what I was saying. You're serious? Dead serious. She inhaled sharply, anger flashing through her tear-filled eyes. You're really going to do this? Just walk away from everything we had? I tilted my head. Jessica, you walked away first. I'm just making it official. Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw real fear in her expression. Not sadness, not regret, fear. Because for the first time, she understood that she had no power left over me. I turned around and walked back inside, leaving her standing there alone. I woke up one morning in a new apartment, a modest, sunlit place with peeling white walls and a small balcony overlooking a busy street. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up to the sound of argument or the heavy silence of a home filled with shattered promises. I had left Jessica and everything that came with her behind, and now I was finally breathing. The divorce was finalized, and the life I once knew had been replaced by a blank slate that I could fill on my own terms. Every morning, I'd make coffee in a chipped mug that felt like a symbol of my rebirth, and as I sipped it on the balcony, I felt a quiet joy that I hadn't known in years. My work as a firefighter had always been my identity, my way of saving lives and proving my worth. But in the aftermath of Jessica's betrayal, it had become more than that. It was a lifeline that reminded me that I was capable, that I had strength. I threw myself back into training and community outreach, reconnecting with colleagues who welcomed me like an old friend returning home after a long absence. I even found time to volunteer at a local shelter, something I'd always wanted to do, but never managed when my life was consumed by Jessica's drama. In those moments, I rediscovered the man I had been before all the humiliation and heartache. At home, I devoted time to my children, playing board games, cooking dinner together, and listening to their excited chatter about school projects. Their smiles were the most honest rewards I could ever receive. Every day, I learned to trust myself a little more, to embrace the quiet moments, and to let go of the need to constantly prove my worth. Meanwhile, the world outside moved on without me. Jessica's once perfect life was falling apart. I heard from neighbors and old friends that her professional reputation was in tatters. Investors were pulling out, and the company that had once celebrated her leadership now treated her like a cautionary tale. The scandal had spread like wildfire. I even caught snippets of conversation at the gym, where people mentioned how her name had become synonymous with betrayal. But I wasn't interested in dwelling on her misfortunes. Instead, I focused on building my own future. I reconnected with old friends, invited them over for casual barbecues at my new place, and even started dating again, taking things slowly, letting genuine connections form without the burden of a broken past. Every step I took felt like a reclaiming of a life that had been held hostage by someone who never truly appreciated me. I even found solace in a few quiet evenings spent with a well-worn book, realizing that the nights were no longer filled with resentment, but with hope and possibility. As I sat on my balcony one evening, watching the city lights flicker on one by one, I smiled softly to myself. I knew I had made the right decision. Walking away from Jessica wasn't just about escaping humiliation. It was about finding my own voice, my own worth, and creating a life where I wasn't defined by someone else's cruelty. I had finally broken free from a prison built by another's insecurities, and in that freedom, I discovered that the only approval I needed was my own. For the first time, I felt complete, capable, strong, and truly alive. Jessica's downfall wasn't immediate. It was slow, unraveling thread by thread, until she was left with nothing but regret. And the best part? I didn't have to do a damn thing to make it happen. After our divorce was finalized, she clung to the illusion that she could rebuild, that she could still come out of this unscathed. At first, she tried to act like she had moved on. Social media was her stage. Pictures of brunches with friends, captions about new beginnings and self-discovery. But people weren't buying it. Her reputation had taken a hit, and no amount of carefully curated Instagram posts could change the fact that she was now that woman. The one who had publicly humiliated herself. The one who had been exposed in the worst way possible. Tom, the neighbor she had been so eager to risk everything for, wanted nothing to do with her after the fallout. His wife had kicked him out, taken the kids, and wiped her hands of him. He tried reaching out to Jessica, but from what I heard, she turned him down. Maybe she thought she could do better. Maybe she was embarrassed to admit that she had destroyed her marriage for a man who had no intention of sticking around. Either way, she was alone. Her career suffered too. The marketing world thrived on relationships, and Jessica had burned too many bridges. The scandal had followed her, and suddenly, people weren't as eager to work with someone whose personal life had become office gossip. Clients pulled back, promotions disappeared, and the once confident woman who had looked down on me for not being ambitious enough was now struggling to keep a job. Meanwhile, I thrived. My work at the firehouse was better than ever. I had always loved what I did, but now there was a clarity to it, a renewed purpose. I wasn't carrying the weight of someone else's resentment anymore. I could focus on the job, on the people who truly mattered. I found myself enjoying life in ways I hadn't in years. I started hiking again, something Jessica had always complained was a waste of time. I reconnected with friends, hosted weekend barbecues, and even started dating. Not seriously, just enough to remind myself that there were women out there who didn't see me as a joke. And Jessica saw it. I knew because she called. At first, I ignored her, but the messages kept coming. Mike, can we talk? I just want to apologize. Please. I miss you. I made a mistake. I let her sit with her regrets. Then, one night, after months of silence, she showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock and knew it was her before I even opened the door. Jessica stood there, looking nothing like the woman who had once been so sure of herself. She looked tired, thinner than before, her eyes dull. I leaned against the doorframe. Jessica, she let out a shaky breath. Hey, I raised an eyebrow. Something you need? Her hands tightened into fists at her sides. Can we talk? I glanced at my watch. About what? She swallowed hard. Us. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. Jessica, there is no us. Her eyes welled with tears. I know I screwed up. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But Mike, I miss you. I tilted my head. You miss me, Or you miss the life you had before you burn it to the ground? She flinched. That's not fair. I let out a short laugh. Fair? Jessica, you weren't fair. You cheated. You lied. And the worst part? You enjoyed making me feel like I wasn't enough. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I was stupid. I didn't realize what I had. I stared at her, completely unmoved. Yeah, well, too late now. Her lip trembled. You don't even care, do you? I met her gaze, my voice calm. Not anymore. For a moment, she just stood there, blinking rapidly, like she couldn't comprehend that I was truly done, that I had moved on. Then, finally, she nodded. Okay, she whispered. And without another word, she turned and walked away. I watched her go, not feeling anger, not feeling satisfaction, just peace. Jessica had spent years tearing me down, convinced that I would always be there, that I would always forgive, that I would always be the man who put her above myself. But she was wrong. And now, she was just another mistake I had finally left behind. A year had passed since I last saw Jessica. The seasons had changed, life had moved on, and I had rebuilt myself from the ashes of the man she tried to break. I stood on my apartment balcony, sipping my morning coffee, watching the city wake up beneath me. The air was crisp, the kind of fresh that hinted at a new beginning. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely at peace. Jessica was nothing but a distant memory now. I never checked up on her, never asked mutual friends how she was doing. I didn't care. From what I had heard, she moved to a smaller apartment, job hopped a few times, and lost the glow of the woman who once thought she was untouchable. The last message she ever sent me had been short. I am sorry. I never responded. Some things didn't deserve a reply. I had no anger left for her. No khatrith. Just indifference. And in that indifference, I found freedom. My life had become something I actually enjoyed living. Work was fulfilling, but it wasn't my entire identity anymore. I traveled when I had time off, went on spontaneous road trips with friends, hiked trails I had always put off. I learned to cook properly, not just survive off quick meals. I found joy in the small things, late-night drives, a good book, laughter that wasn't forced. And love? It found me when I least expected it. I met someone real. She wasn't flashy or manipulative, wasn't trying to mold me into something I wasn't. She simply liked me for me. It was easy, effortless. She didn't belittle me. She didn't mock my job. When I told her stories about the firehouse, she listened, actually listened, with interest, not rolled eyes. One evening, as we sat on my balcony, she looked at me with a soft smile. You seem happy, she said. I nodded. I am. And for the first time, I truly meant it. I had walked through fire, through betrayal, humiliation, heartbreak. But I had come out on the other side, stronger, sharper, better. Jessica had tried to break me, but in the end, she had only set me free. I glanced down at my wrist, at the watch I still wore, the one she had bought for her affair partner. I kept it, not as a reminder of pain, but as a symbol of how far I had come. With a quiet chuckle, I unfastened it, turned it over in my palm one last time. Then, with a flick of my wrist, I tossed it off the balcony, watching as it disappeared into the world below. I didn't need reminders anymore. I was free, and my life was just beginning. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like, and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.